So, I mean, of course, after we're talking about jazz and the type of people it attracts, let's say, I mean, I saw your little sad eyes when I mentioned my resistance to join a jazz band. Let's say you snap your fingers, teleport back, 6 years ago, and I'm there in that office about to talk to my band director, who's saying, "Hey, why don't you get on trombone? Let's try it out for a bit." What would you say to that kid who's getting introduced to jazz, and they're gonna get comfortable with that? You want them to get comfortable with the whole what people would associate most clearly with jazz, improvisation. How would you tell a kid that you know all their knowledge is how to do their part
Yeah.
and how to play in accordance to the score? How would you tell a kid that is getting into jazz now, how do you get comfortable with the almost radically different ideals of jazz,
No, yeah.
intimacy,
Given, yeah.
openness, and
Yeah.
looseness? How do you tell what's your advice to someone who wants to get comfortable with the
Yeah.
whole concept of improvisation?
So I would say find your instrument first, because the instrument you are playing might not at all be the instrument you're gonna enjoy playing in jazz.
Really?
Because like let's say you're playing euphonium, you're not gonna be playing euphonium in jazz like yourself.
Of course.
But again, that's why they recommended trombone,
Yeah.
because it's an easy switch. But I feel like it isn't about easy switch. It's more about, are you gonna enjoy playing it on this thing?
Engaging switch.
Yeah. Like me, I play the tuba in in our band at Lucerna.
Yes.
I play the tuba. Doesn't mean I'm gonna go out playing tuba in jazz band. I shifted to drums.
Really, drums.
Drums, yeah, in my jazz band, and
That works.
I love it. I would not change any other instrumentation of that. So what I would say to that person is, find your instrument first.
So find your instrument. So how do you think,
Yeah.
once we were squared away with our instrument, what would your advice be to someone who would say, "I don't know if I can improvise well. I don't know if I can really put myself in the music the way I'm expected to in a jazz setting."
Yeah, that's tough, because jazz is its own little world, and there's a lot of phrasing that goes with it. It's like learning a new dialect, and that's a tough one. As far as it goes from just finding your instrument first, I feel like that's a question for Matthew Roars, which is another acquaintance of ours. That's a question for Matthew Roars.
Really,
I feel as if though I'm not eligible to speak on that, because I'm like,
how to get someone into improvisation.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I just say be open. Just it's gonna be cliche, but just don't give up. Just
Yeah, I mean,
it's okay to be outside of your comfort zone.
yeah, that's really kind of what I've heard from other guests on this podcast is they say that if you look at a stage and let's say you're watching Hamlet, and this guy in, let's say, Act 1, Scene 2, and Hamlet stumbles over one word and stutters, do you think anyone in that crowd is going to know anything is wrong?
No,
It's
yeah.
I mean, according to when I was interviewing, I'm not sure if a quick friend of mine named Ethan. He did jazz, and he says, yeah, according to basically any audience, there is no messing up in jazz. To them, that's what it sounds like. So do you think?
No, yeah.
So do you think that So do you think that? Would you agree, rather, that the foremost part of improvising is understanding that to the audience you're doing it all right all the time?
No, yeah. Pardon my language, but everyone's just shooting shit. Everyone's just trying new things, Again, it depends on what setting you're in.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is everyone's just shooting shit. So just, yeah, don't be afraid of messing up. Again, it doesn't feel good when you mess up. But like, hey, no one's really going to pay attention.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think you could say about your time in jazz, learning how to improvise? Because I think personally that's the strangest part of jazz to me. It comes off as alien that
It
anyone
is.
would walk
It
onto
really
a
is.
stage and they don't know exactly what they're gonna. I just maybe that's a little bit how I'm kind of type A wired, but I could not imagine getting
Yeah.
up on a stage in front of any amount of people and not knowing what I'm gonna blow out my horn,
Like,
dude.
And I'm still trying to fathom that. The bottom line is we're all still learning. So if you see someone on stage, don't think they got it all figured out either. They're still trying to learn. They're still trying to it does come down to, and this will I'll agree with the other person you interviewed, syncopation. It comes with repertoire, because one has to know. I think of it, and I feel like other people can resonate with it more. It's kind of like freestyling. It quite literally is freestyling, in a sense where you got something else connected to your mouth, and it's not just you freestyling. It's just what comes with freestyling is repertoire. You got to have some lines in the back of your head, some rhymes.
Yeah. I mean, of course, improvisation isn't just random throw notes out.
No,
it's kind of, you do have to. There is a framework and
Yes.
kind of the scaffold that you would have to play off of.
Yeah.
And especially given the set you're doing.
Yeah, there's chord progressions that come with it.
Yeah,
And yeah.
I've been told several times that the key to improvisation is that the whole idea of jazz is that you're creating a sound and you're creating a music that belongs to you.
Yeah.
The whole ideal of jazz is to, like you said, it's intimate. It's so much a part of you that whenever you play jazz, you have to own it.
Yeah,
And
100%.
that anything that, comes off the stage from you, that's really the key, is not to focus on what is right, what might be right, is to throw it out there, with, of course, with knowledge and a little bit of consideration. And from there, you got to own it. Like, I believe my friend Ethan said, if it's wrong, do it 3 times in a row, and now it's right, and it's part of the song.
It's given. No, yeah. It's
So
true.
what do you think that part has taught you, like improvisation? What would you say your core takeaways would be, like learning how to improvise? Like how do you think it's affected the way you think about music, like technically and creatively?
Yeah. Well, going off of your friend Ethan, that's very, very much true. If you do it wrong, do it 3 more times. Just repetition, dude. Repetition, and that can be interpreted in many different ways. Repetition as in practicing repetition, or repetition as, like he said, playing notes repetition. When it comes to soloing, again, it's very nerve-wracking, but it all comes with, does this sound good? Do I like this? And like you said, making it your own. Like, yes, there's pioneers, like I mentioned, Miles Davis, Coltrane, Charlie Parker, all those people. But again, you got to make it your own too. So I feel like it comes with, again, openness and looseness, dude. Like, I keep going back to those themes,
I think that personally, when I was considering this whole jazz thing, and when I think about jazz, and I was so daunted by the idea of making up the music as you go, and playing all these funky rhythms, playing with these crazy beats. And I was thinking about this and considering what would it be like to do this as a performer. I think that my entire, like, the reason I was so scared and, so almost, I felt like this was some alien concept of music, is because it is, according to what I know, which would be I guess what my friend Ethan, I think he says just the classical ideal versus the jazz ideal, but the classical ideal is uphold the score at any cost.
No, yeah.
Versus the jazz ideal of go out and groove, I believe he phrased it.
Go out and groove. Okay. That's one way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess, would you agree that part of playing jazz is to understand you're playing jazz, not anything else? You're not playing. This isn't like Holst or anyone else who you need to look at that sacred score and keep up. It's jazz, anytime you mess up, it just sounds jazzy to the
It
audience.
just sounds, and I feel like that's thrown around a lot. That can be
Yeah.
very
I
saturated.
mean, of course, I don't mean to be trite and unoriginal, but I am an outsider.
Oh my
very much.
Yeah, no, total given. But I feel like it goes down to what I was saying about combo stuff. Like, don't completely disregard the score. I mean, you can still get by, but the whole idea of jazz and being open is, hey, yeah, come jam with us. Like, do you know the song? No. Okay, who cares? Who gives a fuck?
No, neither does the
Yeah.
audience. Just make it sound
Exactly.
good.
Yeah. So I feel like it comes down to openness and just being like, hey, like, let me make the most of it. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really quite something.
With a score or without a score, you know?
Just
You can play every note on that freaking sheet, or you could just do what you feel.
do what you feel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Be jazzy about it.
And with that said, it does come with communication with the other people you're playing with,
Communication, what?
as in just so you're all on the same page. As open as it is, there are some foundations that you look over at the person. Do you want to solo? Okay, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to take it from the top? Okay. Do you want to start here? Again, just like any other piece of art, just communication is key, just like
Really?
anything else. Yeah.
So communication is key. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
How do you think we got this thing
Everything.
set up?
Hey.
Communication.
So,
Yeah.
well, it's something. So beyond like what you mentioned, communication. That's a really interesting point of
Yeah.
what jazz is.
As open as it
Because
is.
yeah, I mean, I couldn't look up on a stage and think that these guys are having a conversation. I thought they planned everything out. But,
Yeah.
Beyond communication, what do you think are other like key lessons or like key values of jazz and like how they translate to being an artist and being a performer beyond just how to play music in a way.
Perfect.
In a jazzy way.
So a lot of the time, I find myself scrambling to practice these parts, prioritizing this stuff for this band. I'm in a couple groups, and you got to divide your time evenly.
Mhm.
But I find that jazz, there's kind of some gray area because again, you said as an artist, I don't have to scramble as much to learn this chart. I don't have to scramble as much as to do this because, again, it's loose.
Mhm.
I don't got to scramble as much to do that, because jazz is jazz,